Get some insight from somebody who knows a lot about this. Republican Senator from Tennessee, Lamar Alexander. He spoke on the Senate floor about this very issue yesterday, and he joins us now live. Good morning to you, Senator.
Good morning, Gretchen.
Why did you feel that it was imperative that you make this issue public yesterday and talk about it in front of the nation?
Well, I've had a little experience that other people may not have had. 40 years ago, I was a very young aide in the Nixon White House, and I saw the same sort of attitude development. My friendly advice to the president is don't start an enemies list, because when you start, as Politico said, trying to neuter the United States Chamber of Commerce or threaten to take away the antitrust exemption from insurance companies who disagree with your health care plan, when you put a gag order over a big health care organization, Humana, which told its customers that they are about to get their Medicare benefit cuts, when you boycott a major news organization, that reminded me a lot of what was happening in the early years of the Nixon administration. I think you get into a lot of trouble when you go down that road.
How do you respond to the way in which the president responded to the question yesterday, where he said that he wasn't losing much sleep over it?
Well, I think it's an awkward response. You know, when I was in the White House, I was young and energetic, and I understand how you get a bunker mentality. You think everybody's against you, you've got to fight back. But I worked for a very wise man named Bryce Harlow. He said, Lamar, our job here is to push the merely important out and reserve the truly presidential issues for the president. The president should be above all this. He should push the street brawling outside. You know, President Nixon didn't like the New York Times, but that didn't help him any by fixating on that and spending his time on that. So the presidency is a unique institution. It needs to be reserved for very special occasions, and making enemies lists is a way into a lot of trouble.
Can you imagine what it would have been like if President Bush had said that he was not going to speak to specific news organizations?
Well, I imagine he felt like he didn't want to sometimes, but there would have been a big objection. And we have a tradition of a First Amendment in this country that's unlike any other country. We tolerate lots of slings and arrows in the media. The 24-hour media coverage is hard for a presidency to absorb, but the bottom line is, if you get to feeling like you have a bunker mentality, that everybody's against you, if you have the president saying things like, I'm going to take names of bondholders in the GM Chrysler event, or I'm going to call out congressmen and senators who disagree with me on health care, you know, that's street talk, and that's not presidential talk.
You've been in politics a long time, so what do you chalk it up to? Naivete or something more sinister?
It's not sinister, and it's not. I think it's inexperience. President Nixon got into trouble not because when he stopped listening to wiser, older, broad-gauged people and started listening to people with less experience, advertising executive, bond lawyer who had not much experience in public life. I think President Obama has plenty of time to step back and, say, reach out to Senator McConnell, the Republican leader, who's offered to work with him on Social Security. I'm working with Arne Duncan as Education Secretary. I think President Obama is being courageous on many education issues. That's where he should focus his attention. And people close to him should not be engaged in this bunker mentality. It'll get their president in trouble, and it'll hurt our country.
One of the other things he said in that interview was that he doesn't believe that Americans care about this war with Fox News, that they care more about creating jobs and what's going on in Afghanistan. Was that disingenuous?
Well, it just shows. I think he's probably right about that, but it shows the awkwardness of it. The president shouldn't be forced to talk about things like this. He should be talking about creating jobs. He should be talking about Afghanistan. He should not be letting his aides draw him a situation, or he put himself in a situation where he's reaching out and calling out people, taking names, threatening to take away antitrust exemptions, boycotting people. That's not presidential, and that's why he gets questions like that.
One of the things that he has reached across party lines for is education. I know that he had Newt Gingrich involved in a project who's met with him, and I know that that's something that's near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, I think he can do in education what President Nixon did with China. President Obama, in what I think is courageous action, is taking on the idea of paying teachers more for teaching well and creating more charter schools. Those are sort of the holy grail of school reforms. The teachers' unions don't like them, so he can do with that what a Republican president might not do. I'd like to see him focus on that rather than have aides calling people out with whom he disagrees.
All right, Senator Lamar Alexander from Tennessee, so good to speak with you this morning. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you for the invitation.